Welcome, East Coasters. Welcome back to East Coast DNA. This is
Darcy.
And I'm his brother, Andrew. And with us today is Chudi Harris. How you doing, Chudi?
I'm doing great, guys.
Chudi's one of the people that we interviewed when we were doing the jam sessions backstage at Nova Scotia Music Week in 2021.
It'll be one of the first interviews that Andrew and I did together.
It sounds so long ago now, doesn't it? But
it is long.
So he was around when we were talking about actually starting our own podcast. We kind of brought it up at that point that we were starting to think of the ideas and coming up with ideas, and then Chudi's been on our list of people we want to talk to ever since, and then it just kind of kept not happening.
Yeah, and I ducked Darcy for like 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Oh, I feel bad now.
No, that's fine.
I'm gonna make it up with the best interview.
We're still here now. You get a little break from social media, eh?
Yeah, like
it's a good thing.
It's not a New Year's resolution. I don't do those.
No.
But, yeah, you need to like not worry about what everyone else is doing for a couple weeks.
Yeah. I had to train myself to not care that there's a notification on my phone, because at one point I did. And Darcy knows now, like, you send me a message, it might be the next morning I'll reply because it's not urgent, and I'll read it when I read it. And if it's urgent, he'll call me.
Of course.
So,
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, if it's urgent, somebody will find a way to get a hold of you. And I just start turning off notifications. Go into settings, boom, turn off notifications.
If you want to know, you'll check that app when you check it. Yeah.
And sometimes I get it like that. See, that's what happened. I was like, I know there's something on there.
Yeah.
And I checked it and I saw it was like January 3rd or 4th that I saw Darcy said, "Hey, what's up? You wanna chat?" And I was like, definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
We got you though. We got you now. So I think last time we talked, we were talking about you're talking about changing kind of your stage persona with strapping on the guitar and pulling the hood down kind of thing.
Oh, geez. It's hard.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what. I've been doing a lot of solo stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And that's like, and I feel like I probably said the same thing then, because when I was chatting with you guys at Music Week, I was also doing a solo set. And I think, I'm getting more comfortable doing it. But at the same time, like, there's still just something special about having, like, a group of guys on stage that are really in tune, and just like, that's something that I still want to pursue.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, you gotta just, you kind of just gotta work with what's in front of you.
Yeah.
For sure. And right now it's easier to just grab a guitar, get on stage and just do my thing. So
it's great that when you're on with a band, you forget,
man.
Sometimes you forget there's an audience because you're just having fun with the band, and you just kind of
and then the audience feeds off that. That's it's natural. And that's honestly, that's like, I remember Said, Marty, and Dave. You know who those three guys are? A couple guys from, I feel like they're originally maybe from Wolfville. Okay. But I met them through ANSMA, African Nova Scotia Music Association. And there's three dudes get up there. One guy's sitting on like a cajon, is that what they call it? Big box.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think somebody's playing a guitar or a banjo. Just three old fellas that just like seem like they've been playing music their whole life together.
Yeah.
And I remember I was up in Music Week, probably 2018 or 2017. That was in Sydney. One of those years, might have been 2016. And I saw those three guys play, and it was a real life-changing moment. And I don't know if I've ever mentioned it to those guys. I'm not sure if I've run into them in a while, but like, seeing that kind of thing and connecting with it without them even knowing, like, it's that kind of thing that, like, inspires you to get up with the band and have that same connection with the crowd. But you can also do that, by being, I guess, like, more open with your art on stage. That's another thing that I've really been working on. A lot of musicians, I feel like, are super like protective of their art. They don't want to let people know too much what inspired it, because that makes you feel vulnerable. But that's part of it, man. That's part of the art. That's part of what draws people, I think, to performers.
You almost have to be vulnerable for people to believe you.
Oh, exactly.
You have to feel it. You have to be.
That's
vulnerable.
Exactly. Yeah, definitely. That's not to say that, like, music that's not, whatever, vulnerable in a whatever traditional sense isn't you can't connect with it. But like personally, that's the type of music I listen to. Is like my favorite artist growing up was Kid Cudi, and like he's he's the most emotional artist in the world. This dude wears his heart on his sleeve 24/7.
Yeah.
So that's hard for me. That's hard. Like that's not an easy thing to do.
Well, I suppose lyrically and stuff too, it brings it back every time you perform it and every time you hear it being replayed somewhere. So,
exactly.
Yeah, it's could be taxing as well.
That's my issue. I write a bunch of lyrics and then they just sit there in a file, and they never go anywhere because I'm just
like no, that's a little too much. I don't think people should know that. No, should hear that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's interesting though. I've been thinking of like maybe like, and this isn't even to like to say pivot, but like I see a lot of artists like put out art under different names, different projects. It's still you, but it maybe is a chance for you to express yourself in a different way. So,
like middle-aged white guys putting out synthwave music under the name Red 4, like we talked about in the last episode, right?
Exactly. Yeah. There's nothing wrong with it.
No.
One of my favorite artists in the city is like in my opinion, he's young, but he'd call himself middle-aged. He's he's got a couple kids. Adam Warren once.
Yeah.
And he reinvented himself. Like he was an indie guy when he started. And now he's like, in my opinion, he's one of the coolest artists in the city.
Yeah, I have his Glory Glory album over on the wall over here. Everyone knows him as Wants now.
Exactly, man. Yeah. But he's like an OG in the he's been doing it. Yeah. And I think Glory Glory was really successful, weren't they, man? Like they were.
Yeah, they did. They did some national exposure. I know they did a couple of tours, at least as far as Ontario back in the day.
Exactly. Goes to show you, like this is never too late. And it's all about the passion. Like ever since I met Adam, it was, oh man, I really love this new stuff I'm working on. Like I really want to like work with artists I've never worked with, and like, get connected to a community I've never got connected to, and he has, man. Like it's
with him in particular too. The people he's been collaborating with, like he keeps changing, it's great. You wouldn't even draw the relationship between where he was and where he is now, other than it's if it's the name Adam Warren,
exactly.
Yeah. That's what I find too. Like when you're creating stuff, it's sometimes, like I mentioned with, I don't want to promote myself too much, but we talked about it last week a little bit.
No,
so as far as doing like synth stuff, I'm doing it all online on a computer, and I have all my guitars, I have my amp, my bass driver, and I'm creating just something on the computer that doesn't use any of the stuff around me, right? So, and that's the only stuff I'm actually putting out. So it's a whole different, not even stuff I really listen to. I'm just enjoying creating it. So it's a whole different arm of who I am now, I guess.
Yeah, that's what it's about. Like, there's nothing wrong with the fact that some of the biggest artists, around started doing just that, like creating music on their computer. Like that's just like how, a new generation of artists are able to express themselves. Nothing wrong with that. Like same with you guys. Like we all grew up playing guitar, right? And playing keys and, listening to rock and 50 Cent, or maybe that's just me. But like, that doesn't mean that I don't appreciate, new art and what some of these younger artists here and kind of around the country and everywhere are doing. Like it's just all about finding ways of like pushing it, although that, that's not to say like there's a lot of artists who are like using that as like, I don't want to, it's not a crutch, but like as like, like a, I don't know, like a ladder to like, just like fit into this, they want to fit into this sound, and I'm going to look like this. I'm going to sound like this. And like in 24 hours, I can be this artist.
And then all of a sudden, Machine Gun Kelly.
He's a great example of that.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have even thought it, but yeah, it's a great example of that. In 24 hours, this dude's team turned him around. And It's just like, he's just a new artist, and he keeps doing it.
Yeah.
He just keeps doing it, because 1 second he's doing the rap, 1 second he's doing the pop punk something, and then 1 second it's all over.
Yeah.
Drake did that. Has done that his whole career.
And sometimes it feels natural, and sometimes you can see right through it.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm a huge Beastie Boys fan, so I know about
classic.
Instrumentals to hip hop to punk to everything all on one album.
Right. Yeah, those guys were punk guys, right?
Yeah. They started punk, then they did some hip hop, and then they did a whole instrumental album, and they wore tuxes while they performed it. Like, it's everything.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, I struggled a little bit recently with like, oh man, like what side of myself makes the most sense? Because like I still feel like there's this part of me that kind of like wants to commit to something.
Yeah.
You know, I don't want to just be like, oh yeah, Chudi, he's the guy that I don't know what he does. He does something. He plays that weird, you know, multi-sound. No, I still want to be identifiable with something, but it's hard to find the balance between, you know, that.
I think we talked about that a little bit the first time too, about just genres are problematic, but at the same time, they help with people being able to digest what they're gonna.
Oh, of course, man.
What is actually being delivered? Like if you don't know, I mean, if you get the experience to be able to catch a band new because you're hearing them perform, then the genre doesn't matter. But someone's trying to pass it on to you, you're like, well, what does it sound like?
And to know
needed word,
right? Like you still want to like. You know, like there are certain artists that I wouldn't show to certain people I know, right? Like, I know that's probably not going to vibe with their taste.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just trying to label that makes it difficult. And
but I also hate that. So I'm a walking contradiction, man. I don't know what's going on with all that. You just kind of find your little lane, I guess, and you just kind of like
just make music.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
And so one thing too that we were talking about back in 21, you were preparing to get ready for the TD Connect series, which you did have a band with you for that. That was a year ago now.
Yeah, December 2021.
Yeah, there you go.
Right, a couple of months after we met you guys.
Yeah, so that was a cool experience again to see you with the live band. And then I knew you had also mentioned that you were working on a couple co-write songs with Carlton Stone.
Yeah,
so one of those was released. Yeah.
And it's still in the works, but Carlton's a damn superstar, man. Like he's touring with Crash Test, like, whew.
Oh yeah.
He's like, I catch him when I can catch him, kind of thing, which is cool because like when we do catch each other, it's like we spend a good week writing, and like a lot comes out of it. But that's still going. That's what I'm saying, right? Like I feel like I'm kind of working on like a couple different avenues, and I guess it's just about like finding the one that feels the best. But like. Yeah.
Oh, that's one other thing I was wondering too. Like besides the stuff with him, like I knew that you had worked with Aquaculture in the past, and we've actually on this podcast have had Adam and Aquaculture and Carlton Stone all throughout the year.
When I was
preparing for this, I'm like, oh yeah, we should. These are all the names that Chudi was dropping.
Exactly, man. Yeah, and I love how diverse those names are too. Right, like those are all like just like.
Oh yeah, that's all across the board. Yeah,
exactly, man. Like the more the city does that, the better. The more the city has artists from, I don't want to call them scenes because they feel small, but like that's what they are, right? Like you got a heavy quote unquote scene, and you got like a rap scene, which is like 3 or 4 different scenes that kind of coalesced into one, and then like you got more like the singer songwriter circle, right? And that kind of meshes with more of a folk circle as well, in my opinion. That's just what I've seen. But like, it's really hard to like to get all those people in the room at once, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Like, like how often, other than like a weird, awkward award ceremony, which I don't really love those. So I'm not trying to like do that kind of stuff too much.
The one big exception I can think of is coming up in Halifax is that big Shiny Tunes at the Marquee. I think they get, it's 2 nights. So the lineup is different on each night. Right, I think if you were to list all of the bands out,
it's a pretty
probably
like
touch everything. Yeah.
So the more we do stuff like that, you know, the better.
Well, it's great exposure. Yeah. Like if I'm wanting to go catch a rock show or a rap show, and then I go and there's a folk artist in the middle of it, I'm going to stay. And I mean, I'm being Andrew, both are multi-genre fans anyway, but it's a great opportunity, especially if I'm bringing somebody with me and I'm like, well, you'd really like these couple bands, but let's stick around for a couple hours and see what else is here, see what else you like. It's Halifax is great for that. I'm assuming some of the other provinces have it too, but even the people we've been interviewing, it sounds like some of the other provinces don't have as much diversity in the sounds coming out of their smaller scenes as well. So
yeah, I definitely say that's probably unfortunately the case, like around the Maritimes. Halifax is probably the most diverse scene you're going to see, although that's not to say that there aren't some really great and interesting artists around them. Like one of my favorite hip-hop artists from the Maritimes from PI, Vince the Messenger. Like he's like he can stand up with anybody from around here, in my opinion. So like I think it's worthwhile, and it's also interesting when there are artists from like New Brunswick or PEI coming up here and like really integrating into the scene.
Yeah,
that's important too, right? Because you want to spread those resources around. Like Halifax is a bit of a hot zone or whatever.
Yeah, it's like a little melting pot of
it's a little
scenes.
Exactly. So
and they're everywhere. Like like you say, like there is artists that are everywhere, but I don't see them all getting recognition in their hometowns. They are coming to Halifax or whatever. They're like, oh, a new Halifax band. Like, no, I'm from New Brunswick.
I played a show. The last show I played was at Gus's Pub with a couple bands, good friends of mine, hilarious name. So, if we need to bleep something, the name's Topless Models. They're a great band.
Yes.
Super great band.
I'm going to see them Saturday.
Oh, are you? Dude, yeah. They're almost like an Arctic Monkeys-esque. Anyway, that's the vibe I get from them. They're super tight too. So I played a show with them at Gus's with a couple bands. Like one band came up from New Brunswick. Another band maybe had some members that were from different parts of Nova Scotia and stuff like that. So it's common, I guess, for bands to travel up here. I don't travel outside of Nova Scotia that much, so I don't know, what it looks like to necessarily play a lot of shows in New Brunswick outside of like when the ECMAs or Muse Nova Scotia or whatever touches down there. But yeah, man, it's interesting. It's interesting for sure.
So what have you been working on yourself lately? When I know you came up with a new track in the summer there.
So the big thing I'm working on right now, so you guys talked to Lance recently. He put out a couple tracks with a producer named Loser Supreme. The big one being Hit Woman, which I don't know if it made it on the last record. I don't think it did, but it was a single. So yeah, I'm working on a project with Sam. That's the thing I'm literally currently writing.
Cool.
So I imagine it'll kind of be like a co-produce. You got any of you guys Gorillaz fans?
Oh yeah.
That's the creative angle we're going with.
Okay.
Kind of like an early Gorillaz. It's gonna have a bit of a pop and a boom bap to it. Just something that allows me to stretch my limbs a little bit.
Yeah, that's exciting.
Yeah, and also the cool thing about Gorillaz is that they're super non genre, right? I guess they kind of fit into an alternative, but sometimes they got a hip hop, sometimes they got a bit of a rock or a punk vibe to it. Obviously,
they're just the Gorillaz.
Yeah, they're the Gorillaz.
Yeah.
It was funny you were saying about listening to stuff growing up, and you mentioned 50 Cent, and then you kind of paused for a second to kind of see our reaction, but that's I was older when 50 Cent came out. So when you say Gorillaz, I immediately go yeah, Del the Funky Homo Sapien.
Exactly.
I used to listen to him back in high school.
Classic.
So
De La Soul, stuff like that. Yeah. I feel I had to catch up on that when I got older. I feel there's still a lot of stuff I'm catching up on. D'Angelo, I feel stupid for not listening to him.
I introduced someone to the Judgment Night soundtrack the other day for the first time. They're like, I never heard this. I'm like, that's it's the best soundtrack album of all time. So that all
that's the whole reason that nu metal even existed,
right?
Yeah.
Linkin Park doesn't exist. Yeah, we're. But then at the same time, I feel a lot of that stuff is influencing what's coming out now.
Yeah.
It's interesting because somebody's listening to it.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'd say that's kind of the angle I'm going with now. And honestly, I'm still, it's weird to say, but I'm still on the fence because I've got a lot of basically finished music that is closer to stuff that if you listen to my early 3 records, it sounds like that. It's kind of more of a down tempo R&B, bit more of a pop, slant to it. But Like I said, I don't know. Like it's. I don't know if I'm just in my head or if I'm like, or if I'm really like, yeah, you know, like that's not me anymore. Like I don't want that to represent the sound. So like I'd say the next thing you should look out for is the project I'm working on with Loser Supreme.
And will that be like singles? Like I know the 3 previous releases were EPs. So are you doing an album at some point or an EP or singles?
Somebody told me never do an album until you get like a decent following.
Yeah.
You know, like that idea is for some reason is rung in my head for years now. It's that like, you know, like it'd be hard because like an album, you really want to support it. You're putting a lot of effort, putting a lot of time. You're in the studio for months sometimes. You're bringing in other artists. So like when people invest in stuff like that, like you really want to be able to say, all right, like I'm going to push this for the next year.
Yeah.
And invest everything I got.
The life cycle these days is a little different with all the online stuff. So the EPs.
Exactly, man.
The EPs are nice if you have a couple really good singles out to support it and then say, well, here's a couple other songs and we'll put it as a package.
Yeah.
But the listener now too seems to be very single driven, which I miss the album collection.
Tell me about it, man.
Yeah.
Tell me about it. The cohesiveness of like a group of 12 songs is something that I just think younger generations are going to miss out on.
Yeah.
Like you're going to.
That's part of the art too, is just piecing those songs together so they all fit and they flow. Yeah. And that was most of the art of the album.
The last guest had an 18-track album just come out on the 13th there, which was really unusual for us to be covering somebody doing that because since we've only been doing this just a little over a year, it's been mostly EPs and singles from people. Sure. Not a lot of full albums.
For sure.
So it's nice to see both. It's nice to digest both.
Yeah, but at the same time, I'm also seeing, and I don't know, we're not gonna talk about that artist because I'm not trying to, but like, there's a lot of artists who like will put out the 20-track record and like 10 of them are filler, man. Like 10 of them should have just been demos.
Like Smashing Pumpkins this year.
Yeah, like, there's a lot of the mainstream bands that 100% falls in that. Yeah. They have 1 or 2 singles and the rest is just what they wrote while they were trying to figure out what they were going to release. So. Yeah.
Call it a mixtape then. Like don't promote. Which is what I'm also trying not to do, right? Because like I said, I've got like probably 20 songs that I'm like, these are close enough that I think people could hear them and appreciate it. But like how many of these are people going to say like, I wonder what he was going for there. And like I feel like this sounds unfinished. You know, I don't know. Maybe that, like I said, I get in my head a lot, but that's what I listen to sometimes. And I hate to say it because it is a lot of these like established artists that are still, 10, 20, 30 years in the game doing it. But like, they're still, like I said, they're influencing the younger generation still.
Yeah.
Like, it's all cycles. So they're still listening to that shit and being like, okay, yeah, 2 singles and, 4 or 5 decent songs and the rest is crap. Like, no, that's not an album. It's a mixtape.
It's an EP with filler.
Yeah, it's an EP with filler.
Yeah.
So there's a line there for sure. But I'd love to make an album, man. But like if I did, like I said, it'd be like it'd have to be like, I'd really take my time in the studio, work with the artists I'd love to work with. And like there's your dream artist, but then there's the artists that are like, like I don't want to say like, oh, I can, but like that are more in your circle, more in your like in your range, I guess. And like make sure that like I've got like the right headspace and I understand like if somebody asked me like, what's your project about? I'd be like, yeah, it's this emotion, or it's this, it was inspired by this. And this is kind of what came out of it. Like, I just don't think I'm at that point, which cool. But eventually.
So I found Weezer this year. They weren't all great songs, but they put out 1 song every season. I don't know if you caught that, but they put out 4 EPs this year. And
God, Weezer is so prolific, man.
And they're all different because it's like the mood for the spring, the mood for the summer, the mood for the fall. And they did a good job getting the emotion. They aren't all great songs, like I said, but you get the emotion from each one. So they actually something that you don't see from mainstream, like we just said. They don't do that as much. So
yeah, and Weezer's been an interesting case too, right? Because like they will have those random like hits like in the past couple of years. What was that one cover they did? Did they do a cover of Africa?
Yeah,
that was huge.
And then they did a whole album of covers after that.
Yes,
they did like No Scrubs, and they did just whatever they wanted, right?
So, what the hell's going on there? But like, that's cool. Like, you can do that, and then still like they also put out a record. I think it might have been getting close to 6 or 7 years ago now. That was like, everything will be all right in the end, or something like that is what it was called.
Mm-hmm.
And it was one of my favorite records from them. It was so different, sonically. And it felt like kind of just a moment in time. But a lot of those type of bands, my favorite records of them are those moment in time records that it's like felt like they were just in a headspace, or like they were in a physical space, like, oh, they were in Chicago and something inspired them about the city and they wrote a record about it. It's just like, holy shit. It's a great record about Chicago. But like they're never going back. So I don't know, like something like that. You know, is always cool. So I'd like to maybe write something like that too, but I'm also on a totally non-musical note, like I'm also in school full time. I went back to school. And it's a lot of reading. And like, you know, you don't want to pick up a guitar after reading a textbook for 10 hours.
I went to school for
music related.
No. So I did go to music school. I don't know if I mentioned this last interview, but back in 2017, this is why I moved to Toronto. Humber opened up a music business school in 2017. And I knew that, I knew a couple of people there, but also some really cool artists came from Humber, like the guys from Bad Not Good. I think they graduated from Humber. So I was like, yeah, you know, it'd be a cool experience. I know like they have like internships, so like you get to like see the business side a little bit more, you know, work within the industry out there. But like, I also felt like that also like really changed my perspective on art. Like when I came back, I just didn't feel the same. Like I didn't feel the same writing. You know, going into a space, like I feel like I changed the way I like viewed interacting in like music spaces. It was weird. It was a weird couple of years coming back from there. And I don't know if everybody experiences that, like when you kind of move away from home and like, you know, go to like a quote unquote bigger market and then, you know, bring, you know, kind of these ideas back and like, it just doesn't always mesh. So, anyway, I'm tangenting. What am I going to school for? I'm going to school for sociology at St. Mary's.
Oh, okay.
And it's crazy relevant. That's the big thing I'll say. Like everything we talk about is like, you know, super applicable to something that's, you know, going on in the city or something that's going on more nationally. And like, I'm just hoping to be able to like apply that more to like the work that I do, whatever it is. And it's a quick program. I'm only in there for 2 years, so it's not like I'm going to be slogging the rest of my life.
But while you're in it, you're slogging for 2 years.
Like it's like I'm reading Marx today. That was what I was doing before I was talking to you. And it's just brain head hurts, you know, like it's a lot.
When I went back to school in 2011,
you know,
I went back to school for 2.5, 3 years as a distance course. And so I was working full time and then doing this full time. And I didn't touch my guitar for 3 years. I just didn't.
Exactly. It's picking up dust.
Yeah. I kind of forgot he played guitar for a while, actually.
I don't know too. Like it sucks to say that like we're in the age of like, you know, like being seen and like people's attention span having to be like constantly stoked. And like, I suck at that. I can't constantly be on my social media, like letting people know what's going on. And also like if you do need to take a break to like we were talking about writing a record, like I feel like when you're Rihanna, you can go away for 2 years or 5 years or whatever, and then come back and headline the Super Bowl. But the rest of us can't do that. So you go away and people forget. They forget who you are. So
speaking of social media, what are you most active on? Where can people find you online?
I'm going to be active again on Instagram pretty soon. So find me on Instagram at Chudi Harris. Facebook, Chudi Harris. All the tracks are on Spotify, YouTube, streaming. I'm everywhere, man. Anywhere you need to
I think your website, you have a website with all the links at the bottom too.
Exactly.
Correct? So we'll link that
ChudiHarris.com.
Downstairs. Down in the description, we'll put that website there too.
Yeah.
And this is usually Darcy's question, but I want to grab it. We always do a companion list for YouTube, sometimes Spotify. Kind of focused around you and people that you want to be associated with, kind of thing. So
cool.
We'll get a list from you if you want to name a few people, or you don't want to start giving shout outs and miss somebody, then we understand that too. So
no, like a lot of the people I mentioned, right? Like feel like the closer and closer that me and Lance get, like the better and better the work that we put. Like I'm super proud of that song that we worked on his last record. And like, you know, like he doesn't need an introduction. Like Aquaculture is kind of like, you know, he's taken things over by storm. So obviously Adam, you know, has been doing some really cool stuff. Same with Johan. I'm super excited to see what Johan puts out next. Johan Black is a very talented stage performer. Like if you want to get inspired watching a show, like watch this guy get on stage and just like control the whole room.
He controls that. He works the whole, however much space he's given, he seems to be able to fill that space. Like he's constantly moving, but he just fills the space.
But his movements are so like smooth and they're almost choreographed, but I know he's not choreographing. He's just getting up there and doing it.
He's just feeling the vibe as he goes. Yeah.
We played, you guys know that beer garden. What's it? Gahan something? One of these beer gardens down by the waterfront. It's got like a high balcony platform. We played
Salt Yard,
something like that. Yeah, it might have been Salt Yard. We played one of these Music Nova Scotia showcases, and it was literally this tight. It was like 25 degrees. The sun was beating down on us. It was this tight little space. I'm literally getting up there like drenched in sweat. I got a towel around me, and still he still controls that. And like everybody on the boardwalk is kind of like pulling up, being like, "Who the hell is this guy?" You know, like. Anyway, I can go on, but Johan is definitely an artist to look out for if you don't know who he is.
Perfect.
And you have more stuff coming out with Carlton at some point too?
Yeah, definitely. We're working on at least one more really, really interesting single that like we've started. And I think when he gets back on tour, we'll probably get a chance to kind of to get that going again. But like, yeah, like I honestly literally at any moment I could just decide that, you know what, I'm going to drop something. That's the goal I'm working towards, you know, because there's also something to be said about the artist that's like not tied down to like a schedule, or that's not like restrained by like the, you know, like this release, you know, mindset. Yeah, like, you know, I love when your favorite artist just like, oh, here's a surprise EP that you guys didn't expect. And
as a fan, it's awesome. Like even you had mentioned that you were working on a couple of songs with Carlton way back, and then it was August, I think, when you had the How It's Always Been came out.
Yeah.
And even running this podcast with Andrew and constantly following stuff, I'm like, oh, I didn't know that was coming out. Cool.
Yeah.
New song for the car.
On you. Yeah.
Maddie Grace did that to us yesterday. Just notification. Two new songs. Boom. I was like, oh, 2 songs. Just, I don't know.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. And also, like, thank you guys, man. You guys are like, there are not enough quality content creators outside of like people who just like put out music in the music space. You know what I'm saying? Like people who are really committed. Like I was gonna say when we started, like, damn, you guys look great. like we about to get 100,000 views on YouTube. Like you guys look like you guys look solid and
appreciate it.
You know,
Thanks.
Keep doing your thing. You know, we definitely need more and more people like you who are committed and doing the work the right way too. So
it started as just a hobby, and talking to people like you at Music Week, we're like, well, we should really put more effort into trying it. But it blew up so much with everything reopening. Like Andrew mentioned several times, the purpose was about the reemergence of the scene. But then all of a sudden, like everything's open and everybody we met is putting up stuff, and then there's all these new people, and it just snowballed from there.
It'd be like Aragorn busting through the doors, just fucking kick the doors open, and here I am.
He's all sweaty and wet. And that's what's up. No, man. Like I think, and like I talk about this a lot with artists around here that, like, you know, it doesn't need to be like somewhere else. We don't need to be like Montreal. We don't need to be like Toronto. But like, I think there definitely needs to be an effort for more of us to take the resources we do have and like elevate each other, man. Like that's what this is. You guys are elevating me by getting the chance to speak about my art. And hopefully like, the more and more people do stuff like this, like there are definitely good things on the horizon. Like you mentioned, like there's not a lot of Halifax artists that we see maybe like breaking through the ceiling, but I think that's coming. Like I think the right pieces are being put in place for that to eventually happen.
It's picking up a lot and quick.
Yeah. Like I'd love to be a part of that in some way. Like I don't know what that looks like, but like I'm also super interested in not having to be on stage and also like adding value. Like whether that's like working in music spaces or doing mentorship. Like I'm not that young anymore, man. I've been doing this for enough that I feel like I've got some stuff I could teach to some kid who maybe has the same ideas I did, right? Like, that's all super important. I had a lot of mentors. Yeah. Oh yeah.
You teach them as kind of a springboard for them to take off from there, right? So,
yeah. And then you seeing people succeed that, you kind of helped along the way is rewarding as fuck. So, yeah, man.
One of my favorite things at work was to take on students. And like for the last 5 or 6 years, I never didn't have a student. It just always had a student on the truck because it's fun to watch them grow, and then they always have that connection with you down the road.
Exactly. Yeah.
It keeps you young too. I also have similar experience with my corporate career.
I can. I got the gray
depending on the student.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
So we're going to play out with How It's Always Been. Did I get that right?
You got it.
Yeah. Anything you want to tell us about that song before we close out?
Yeah, I wrote it with Carlton Stone. Super excited about the way it turned out. It's definitely the cleanest song I've ever recorded. Like it literally sounds exactly the way I thought it would sound in my head. It's rare that happens. Yeah. So it's a summer song. So like, we're pretty lucky. Actually, the weather's been pretty chill.
Yeah, my shovel's still in the garage. I haven't taken it.
Yeah, exactly. I really haven't used it at all. But yeah, if you kind of need something to warm you up and kind of remind you of those summer days, that's really what it's about.
Perfect. So we're gonna hear that here in a moment. If anyone wants to find us, we'll have a link tree in the description downstairs, and click on there, and everywhere we are is inside that link. And we'll catch you all in a couple weeks. And thanks for coming on, Chudi.
Bless, thank you guys. Appreciate it. Take care, y'all.
No mistake, we're in love. That's how it's always been. I wanna be her escape when she gets rough. That's how it's always been. Holding on to the memory isn't hard, cause we knew back then that there's no mistake, we're in love. That's how it's always been. How it's always been. One of those guys, they don't wanna be there. I hope you know. How many guys are you gonna see there when it's cold? Girl, when you feel depressed any night that you're alone, I'll be blowing up your phone. I'm gonna be there soon. No mistake, we're in love. That's how it's always been. I wanna be her escape when she gets rough. That's how it's always been. Holding on to the memory isn't hard, cause we knew back then that there's no mistake, we're in love. That's how it's always been. How it's always been. Whoa. How it's always been. Showing off, just trying to get you laughing. Every guy's trying to get your attention. Wanna make you cry just to see a reaction. You've seen the world, girl, but I know where you came from. I just wanna be the one when you wake up. Every love story needs a next chapter. Are we gonna be happy ever after? No mistake, we're in love. That's how it's always been. 'cause we knew back then that there's no mistake, we're in love. It's how it's always been, how it's always been. Whoa, how it's always